All right, everybody. So we're going to be getting into podcast in a minute here, but before we get into it, I'm just going to go through, who I want coming to these live streams, who I want coming to this show. So today we're talking about the number one thing you need to be successful as an athlete, and so we're going to be talking about this for the episode today. But what I want before we get into it is I want people to invite invite athletes to these, invite coaches, invite anybody that's involved in that athlete journey, that journey to help athletes actually achieve their dream careers in sport, to help athletes become the best versions of themselves that they can be. And the reason that I want that is because my commitment to myself and my commitment to everybody out there is that I'm trying to impact this industry on a deeper level. I'm trying to create something in the world of high performance sport that people are going to remember for years to come. And the way I do that is I'm working on not only obviously the physical side when I'm doing the work in the gym, the online work now with clients around the world, but working more into that mental side. So when I do these live streams, I want to be speaking to athletes directly. I want to be speaking to coaches. I want to be speaking to parents of young athletes that are trying to do something great in their athletic careers. And so as people tune in, please let me know how your day is going. I know it's a little bit late right now, but also, if you are tuning into this, if you're watching this and you know of an athlete that might need a little bit of direction, you know of a coach or a parent that works with young athletes that are trying to create something for themselves, have that ambition, have that passion for their sport that you need to be successful, this is where I want them to be. So we are going to get into the podcast in a few quick seconds here. And just a reiteration, the podcast is about helping athletes find the edge and build their dream careers in sport. So we're going to get into it in about 10 seconds. We're going to wait, see if anybody's going to tune in today. It's looking like it's just me to start things off, and that is okay. All right, 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the show that is designed to help athletes find the edge and build their dream careers in sport. And today we are going to be talking about the number one thing you need to do to be successful as an athlete. The number one thing you need to do to be successful as an athlete, regardless of the sport. So we're not talking about the skill set. We're not talking about, anything to do with the actual sport itself. We're talking about the number one thing all athletes need to be successful. And what that is to show up. If you have big goals, there is a path to hitting that goal. If you're a hockey player and you want to play in the NHL, there is a path to that goal. If you are over 18 and you haven't been drafted and you're playing high level hockey and you feel like, this might be it for me, hockey might be over, there is a path to continuing on that career. Even if it might not be the NHL, there is a path for you. And the first thing and most important thing you need to do is show up. And this is the same for all sports. I do a lot of work with combat athletes in a variety of different disciplines. And so many that talk about, winning world championships, so many that talk about making it to the UFC, winning the UFC world championship. And the number one thing, again, that you need to do if you're in that position, if you have goals like that, is to show up. The number one thing over anything and everything else. When you don't feel like it, show up. When you feel like it, show up. When you don't want to work, work. And being able to build that discipline to be able to show up on the days that you don't want to. That's going to be absolutely the number one thing athletes need to be successful. So what I want to talk about a little bit today is why I believe a lot of people don't show up for these goals. If you're an athlete, you have big goals, dreams for your sport, why is it that you're not showing up? Why is it that you're not following that path that's being laid out for you to be able to succeed in your sport? And so we want to get into that a little bit. I think the number one reason that a lot of people don't show up for those dream careers, those goals that they have for their sport, is that they simply don't believe it. They talk about having these big goals for sport. They talk about these things they want to achieve in their sport, and they just don't believe it. They don't think that it's actually possible. And so, one thing I want to talk about a little bit there is how these self limiting beliefs come to be. Why is it that we grow up not believing that what we want out of our lives is a possibility for us? And I think these things come a lot of the time from, again, friends, family, and sometimes we grow up seeing these sports heroes online, seeing these sports heroes on TV every night and thinking, there's no way that could be me. I'm not destined for something so great. I'm not destined for that kind of level, that kind of activity, that kind of life. And so we just write it off. We just believe that, this isn't for me. So I'm not going to keep working at it because I'm not destined for something like that. But the trouble is, nobody's destined for it. Everybody gets there by working for it. Everybody gets there by putting the time in, by putting the effort in, and by continuing to push forward when they don't want to. So those limiting beliefs that you have for yourself, a challenge if you're listening to this right now, a challenge for you is go through those biggest limiting beliefs for you. What is it that you truly want in your life that you don't necessarily believe right now that you can achieve? And then break that down. Why do you think it is that you don't see that as a possibility? Why do you think it is that you feel like this isn't real for you? You feel like this won't happen for you. And if you can break that down and you can be aware of the reasoning why that self-limiting belief is there, you can start to break it down. And you can start to not only break it down, but get rid of it. And then the number two reason that I really feel like people aren't showing up, people are letting these dreams go, letting these goals go by the wayside, is just a fear of failure and a fear of judgment. And I know this one was a big one for me. Is when I started pursuing a career in coaching, a lot of people thought it was a little crazy that I wanted to spend my life coaching professional athletes in fitness to help them improve in their sport. And a lot of people thought it was nuts. A lot of people thought there's no way in hell this is ever going to happen. He's going to work the front desk, got a good life for his whole life. This wasn't really a career when I started pursuing it. And in the beginning, I let that get to me. I veered off of that path and I didn't really go after it because I didn't feel like it was actually going to happen. I didn't feel like it was possible for me to spend my life coaching professional athletes. Why me? Why, of all people, would I be someone that would do something so cool for a living? And it took a lot of time to realize, and a lot of unfortunately a lot of money towards a different degree, before I realized that it wasn't in the cards not to try. I was sitting in a modern languages degree, not pursuing strength and conditioning because I felt like it wasn't realistic, and I was just miserable. I was depressed. I hated being at school. I hated everything I was doing because I was pursuing I was pursuing an education I didn't want, to get a job I didn't want, to live a life I didn't want. And by throwing that away, by putting that aside and pursuing what I actually wanted, yeah, there was a lot to get past. There was a lot of judgment. There was a lot of fear. There was a lot of fear of, what if I go to school for this for 4 years and I can't find a job? And then I have to go back, go to school again and, kind of start from scratch. The other side was, what if I go to school for this for 4 years and then try to work in the field and waste the next 10 years of my life trying to build this dream career that, I've been thinking about and I think is possible, but I don't know is possible. And that fear of failure was massive. That fear of failure stopped me for a long time of really going all in on this job. And it has in a variety of different ways, even over the years. But the second I was able to throw that aside, the second I was able to say, no, you know what? Like, this is what I was meant to do. This is where I was meant to be in my life, was the minute I was able to go all in and make incredible changes to my own life, tripling the size of my business even over the last few months. And just making changes that if you had told me 5 years ago that I was going to be doing what I'm doing now, I would have laughed you out of the room. but it was simply from putting aside the opinions of other people, putting aside that fear of judgment, that fear of failure, and deciding that I don't live for anybody but me. I live for me, and it's not up to anybody else to understand it. And because it's not up to anybody else to understand it, their opinions on it don't matter. And the other big question that I would have for somebody, if you're sitting here and you're thinking, I have an athletic goal I want to pursue. I have, I want to go all in and I want to try to make my sport into my career. But, I'm scared of what somebody will think. I'm scared of what, my mom will think. I'm scared of what my brother will think. I'm scared of what my girlfriend will think, my boyfriend will think. Why? I'll say that again. Why is that something that scares you? Why does it matter to you what they think? Are you living your life for them or are you living your life for you? And obviously, I understand that opinions are going to have an effect on you, but ultimately, this isn't their life to understand. This isn't their journey to understand. It's up to you. If you don't want to be the person sitting around at 40 or 50 years old wondering what you could have been if you had really gone all in and pursued your sport, don't be. Pursue your sport now while you have the chance. And then, yeah, maybe it doesn't lead all the way to the top. Maybe you don't become the best in the world. But what you are going to do is open doors. What you are going to do is give yourself opportunities through pursuing your sport that you otherwise wouldn't have had. And that's a pretty incredible thing. So even like talking about that fear of judgment, I'm sure there are going to be people listening to this that are judging it. People listening to this thinking, I'm being some rah-rah motivational guy and thinking that it's stupid, rolling their eyes and, turning it off. And that's fine because that's not who this is for. This is for the person who's listening to this right now, wrestling with the fact that they want to go all in on something. They want to pursue their sport with full and complete passion, but they're scared and they're worried about, what someone's going to think about it. They're scared. They're worried about going all in and not being successful at it. They're scared. They're worried about, the people laughing at them and saying, "Oh, I told you so," if they end up having to quit. And really and truly, you just can't worry about those people. If that's who you're doing it for, then quit now. But you shouldn't be doing it for those people. You should be doing it for you. Because ultimately, your opinion of yourself is the one that matters. Your opinion of whether you believe you can achieve your athletic goals, that's the opinion that matters. Nobody else's. They don't know you as well as you know you. And to go back to, myself and my own journey, my goal is to affect this industry on a global scale. My goal is to change the way that athletes think about strength and conditioning, change the way that athletes think about developing a career in sport. And I don't do that by sitting on the sideline. I don't do that by, worrying anymore about what people are going to think of things that I have to say, my opinions, my thoughts, my actions, things I do within my business. I don't worry about other people's thoughts on it for that reason, because I'm not doing this for the person who's going to listen to it, laugh because they think I'm, being one of those rah-rah motivational guys online. I do that for the person who is in that position right now where they want to go harder at their sport. They want to push for a career doing what they love to do, but they're scared to do it because of the people around them. And my goal is to positively affect the lives of athletes around the world. And so that's the number one thing I'm aiming to do with this show. That's the number one thing I aim to do in my career. And if you are listening to this right now and you're maybe reshaping your mindset, you're maybe realizing that, despite what your mom, your brother, your friends might think, that despite that, pursuing a career in sport is important to you. And if it's important to you, I hope you're realizing now that you should really go after it. Because the number one thing now that you need to do is show up. The number one thing now, if you're going to pursue these goals with that passion, the number one thing you need now is to show up. The number one thing you need is to be there when you don't want to be there, to be working when you feel like sleeping, to get up when the alarm goes off, because that's going to be the way you start your day. So if you're an athlete that struggles with this, if you're an athlete that's listening to this and thinking, man, maybe I can pursue my sport, maybe I can, really create that dream career I've been looking for, ask yourself, why are you here? What are you working for? And if you can put an actual value to that, if you can tell me I'm here to achieve and then insert that goal, whether that's UFC champion of the world, whether that's an NHL contract, whatever that goal is for you, what is it that you're working for? And from here on out, that's your focus. From here on out, you stop listening to your friends that try to tell you that you shouldn't work so hard for your sport. You stop listening to your cousin when they tell you that you're crazy for, going all in on a sport when it's probably not going to lead to anywhere anyway. You stop listening to those people that are trying to tell you that what you're doing won't work, because those people likely haven't done it. And if those people haven't done it, and you know yourself well enough to know that you're willing to put in the time, you're willing to put in the work, then that's the only person you need to listen to. So I hope you got a little bit out of this today. I hope you learned a little bit about yourself. I hope that you were able to take something away. And athletes, as you listen to this show, drop me a comment, drop me a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Let me know what you were able to take away from this show. I'd love to hear from you. And we can be expecting a lot more of these episodes, again, talking about these little things that you can do outside of your sport in order to be successful. So that's the number one thing you need to be successful, is simply to show up.